This is Fissionary, a show exploring how nuclear powers your world. I'm Mary Carpenter.
And I'm Jordan Houghton. Let's jump in.
Welcome back, Fissionaries.
Welcome back. We're so excited today because we're doing something a little bit different. We're gearing up for season 6, and in preparation for that, we thought we would have a little fun with one of our illustrious coworkers today.
So grab your passports because season 6 is all about global nuclear developments. We'll be talking with guests from all around the world to learn how nuclear is helping to shape energy decisions, build partnerships between countries, and what it takes to make more nuclear happen.
To act as our international nuclear tour guide, we're joined by someone who gets to follow all of that up close. Stephanie Pronco is NEI's International Trade Manager, which means she spends a lot of time tracking international nuclear developments, traveling, meeting with people around the world, and helping connect the dots on what's happening globally.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Thanks, Steph. We have a bit of a twist on this episode. So we prepared a game to test Steph's international nuclear trivia knowledge because she's always somewhere cool in the world. So we thought this would be a fun way to start the season. But before we get into that, Steph, we want to hear about the travel side of your work. Have you had any memorable experiences from your travels over the last year? I know you're heading out soon on another exciting trip too.
I think this year it was really interesting because I got to go to Bahrain. So that was my first time in the Middle East. The conversation there looks completely different. The culture there looks completely different. So it was enjoyable even outside of the meetings to kind of just walk through the markets and the beautiful architecture of the mosques. But it really puts things in perspective just because it changes your perspective on the energy conversation. Bahrain is a very small island nation. And so naturally they think about infrastructure, energy security and things like that a lot differently than we do in the US or even their neighboring countries. And yes, as you alluded to, headed to India shortly. So I'm sure a lot more memories to be made.
So what's something people might not realize about how international the nuclear industry really is?
I think people would be surprised by how interconnected the industry is, but also how differently countries approach the same core challenges. So every country is thinking about things like energy security, reliability, affordability, and decarbonization, but their starting points are completely different. So Poland approaches nuclear differently than Sweden. Singapore looks at it differently than the UAE or even the US. And I think what's striking, especially when you travel, is that there's no one-size-fits-all energy transition. That's something that we hear all the time. Well, it worked for you, but it won't work for us. Keeping in mind that countries are shaped by their geography, their politics, their industrial base, their security concerns, but that they're all increasingly part of kind of that same global conversation. So kind of understanding where there's the similarities and differences.
Is there one area of the world where you've really seen a huge shift in the nuclear conversation during the last year?
Yeah, I think we see this all the time in pretty much every country. So we host, coming through NEI, various delegations from different regions, and even just from one meeting months later to the next meeting, things look completely different because at one point you're saying, here's why nuclear is so great, these are all of the benefits, and you're kind of trying to sell nuclear, and then flash forward a few months and they are well down that road. I think Latin America and the Caribbean is one regional example that has moved very quickly in the last year or so. And now I was just restructuring our meeting materials a few weeks ago and I realized I had to change pretty much everything because now the conversation is not here's why nuclear is so great, but it's okay. There's an understanding of why it's so great. Here's all the innovation happening in the US. Here's what it means for your country and for our partnership. And so I think we've seen this shift kind of happening in every region. But yeah, I would say that Latin America and the Caribbean is one that is moving very quickly relative to where they were a year ago.
That's awesome. Anywhere else you're really excited about?
It's hard to pick. I mean, everything's so exciting. Even in Europe, countries that already have nuclear are looking to build so much more. And so I think having the newcomer side of it, but also the established countries, it's all just very exciting. We're seeing, similar trends in Asia and even Africa, which is at a different stage of its journey, but certainly interested in nuclear and engaging with us on a regular basis about, what it takes, what are the next steps, and how are they going to get there.
Is there anywhere you haven't ever visited yet that you really hope work takes you to?
any country in South America or Africa. Those are 2 continents that I would love to go to that I have not gotten to go yet. So
Seems like Africa is a place to be. Seems like you guys should be heading there soon.
yes, others from NEI have gotten to check that one off their bucket list. Maybe I'll be next.
A call out to our superiors, get Steph to Africa.
Yeah, we should probably join too. Right, Jordan?
Yes.
Mhm.
We've said this. We need a Fissionary world tour.
Yeah, exactly.
I would vouch for that.
All right, should we jump into the game?
Very bad at trivia, but let's jump into it.
All right, here's how it works. So for each location, we've got a few clues lined up. Some are nuclear facts, some are just little hints, and they'll start broad and get more specific as we go. Steph can jump in with a guess at any time, and we'll see how many clues she'll need before guessing it right. You ready?
Ready.
Okay. And Fissionaries, play along with us and tell us in the comments how many you got right.
Okay. First country, clue 1. This country's national animal is called a springbok. It is a gazelle-like creature that apparently you'll see everywhere on your holiday, from postage stamps to the country's coat of arms. And it's also the nickname for their national rugby team, who are affectionately known as the Boks.
Oh, the box.
The Boks. Okay. That didn't make it any easier, did it?
It was interesting, but
Steph doesn't follow the mascots of national rugby teams in Africa?
I have to Google the springbok and see what it looks like.
I just did.
Oh, it's cute.
they're actually really cute.
Very beautiful.
Oh, I see a picture of it like jumping.
Yeah.
It's like a ballerina. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Second clue. This country's first commercial nuclear power reactor began operating in 1984.
That's a hard one.
I don't know if that narrows it down.
I think we got to go clue 3.
I think given that Mary gave away that we're on the African continent and they're up.
Did I?
You did.
What did I say?
You said that I don't follow Africa's rugby teams, which is true.
Oh no!
that
I'm
was
worse
my
at this game
unintentional
already.
clue number 3.
Shoot!
And with the operational power plant, I'm going to go with South Africa.
Ding, ding, ding.
Ding ding ding. Okay, that you deserved a hint for the first question. The rest are gonna be super hard, and I'm not gonna give anything away.
We were just talking about Africa before we pivoted to the game. Why is Africa such an important region to watch right now?
I think Africa is an important region to watch because other regions are experiencing rapid population growth, rising electricity demands, and large gaps in reliable energy access, especially if they're going to meet their industrial development goals. But unlike other regions, I think the challenge is not just replacing existing fossil fuels, but building an entirely new energy system fast enough to support that economic growth. I also think Africa is strategically important because countries there are evaluating energy options in a highly competitive environment that's involving the US, China, Russia, South Korea, France, others. And so these energy partnerships, especially at their early stages, they often become broader diplomatic and economic relationships.
So speaking of early stages, what's the difference between interest in nuclear and actually acting on it and creating like real infrastructure progress in Africa?
I think the biggest difference is really the political will, the signals at the government level that is like, we are committing to do this. It's something that we want to do. Because I think that's when you start seeing more investment in terms of capacity building, resources, things like that. It's just also a signal for partners that might want to do business with you, partner with you to deploy in Africa that, okay, this is a real commitment. We're taking the steps to implement the necessary laws, the regulatory bodies and things like that. And I think that's the biggest shift is when you actually see the government making clear commitments.
Okay, so I have to reveal clue 5 because I think it's important for our listeners to know that South Africa is the only country with a nuclear power station on the continent. Obviously, we're talking about other countries in Africa being emerging markets. Why do you think nuclear is attractive in emerging markets in Africa? But I mean, I think it also speaks globally where you have places that maybe don't have a steady power supply, and I'm probably giving away some of your answer. So you tell us.
I think reliable electricity. It's directly tied to manufacturing capacity, foreign investment, healthcare systems, water infrastructure. And I think that's why steady, large-scale power generation can be very attractive. Many of these emerging markets, I think, are also a little bit concerned about dependence on imported fossil fuels and exposure to volatile global energy prices. And so nuclear can offer a long-term source of stable electricity with relatively low fuel requirements compared to oil or natural gas. And so I think that's why it's such an attractive option to these emerging markets, but also elsewhere.
Okay, should we go to the next country? I'm not going to give this one away. First clue. It is considered bad luck to wish someone a premature happy birthday in this country.
That could be anything. So I would like clue number 2.
Clue 2. This country is the 7th largest energy consumer in the world.
Okay, I have some thoughts, but I'm not quite ready to guess yet.
Okay, clue 3. This country is home to over 25,000 castles. That's a lot of castles.
That is a lot of castles.
Oh, this next one's good. This one, I think, is going to bring you home. This country is home to the chemists who discovered uranium.
I feel like now I have to get it on clue 4, but I'm going to ask for clue 5.
Oh, no. I was hoping you didn't want clue 5 because this is a tough pronunciation. This country completed their autumn Ausstieg, aka their nuclear phase out, on April 15th, 2023.
That would be Germany, and I feel like just you pronouncing that, I could already picture it. It was German for sure.
I apologize to every German speaker who's listening to this for that butcher, I'm sure, of a job that I just did. But yes, Germany, you got it.
Good job. Also, the chemist who discovered uranium, for curious listeners, is Martin Klaproth,
the leading chemist of his time. Germany's really interesting, right? And the clue that got you to the answer is something I want to just touch on really fast, was their nuclear phase out. So just tell us a little bit about your thoughts on Germany right now and nuclear.
I think Germany is an interesting case. Obviously, it's been in the media a lot. I think it's one of the most prominent energy policy decisions in Europe recently, just because it's one of the world's largest industrial economies, yet decided to phase out nuclear, which for a lot of countries that also are looking to decarbonize their industries are kind of doing the opposite. And so I think it really is interesting that even shutting down these reactors, it's still shaping the global nuclear debate because people are studying whether the phase actually is going to help or hurt them in the long run. We've seen statements in the media of kind of politicians saying maybe this wasn't a great idea. How is this affecting energy prices and energy security? And so I think Germany will continue to remain central to the nuclear debate because it's a clear example of a major economy trying to decarbonize while also moving away from nuclear power.
How does Germany fit in with the rest of Europe right now?
I think the rest of Europe is kind of headed the other way. You have so many countries that are building more nuclear. Sweden and Finland have been operating nuclear. They're building more. You have Poland looking to build their first nuclear power plant. And so definitely it's in contrast with a lot of the other countries, especially because countries that had previously talked about maybe we're going to phase out nuclear have started to reverse course.
Okay, next country. Speaking of Europe, there is a little extra hint for you. 1/3 of this country is powered by nuclear. It has 5 nuclear reactors.
One more clue, because just for good measure.
I was really hoping you didn't need the second clue for the same reason Mary didn't want that 4th clue on the last one, because this is gonna be bad. Okay, this country's national dish is an oval-shaped pastry filled with rice porridge or mashed potatoes.
That would be Finland. We got to eat those when we took our trade mission there.
Can you say the word?
No.
Oh my gosh, I feel terrible for Finnish people who are going to hear me try and say this word. Karjalanpiraka?
That was lovely.
I'm so sorry to our listeners for the pronunciation. Clue 5 we have to talk about. Finland is home to the world's first facility for permanently disposing spent nuclear fuel. So, Steph, tell us a little bit about that. What was the policy? How did this come to be?
I think a lot of countries that have nuclear or considering nuclear, waste management is top of mind for them. What are we going to do with it? How are we going to store it in a way that's safe, that makes the public feel safe and accept this? And I think they came up with a great solution. We actually visited this site on our trade mission, and we got in an elevator and went like 90 some floors down into the earth where
Wow.
have dug out like massive tunnels and are essentially going to bury the fuel in containers. And then they're going to fill the outside with, it was described to us, I forget the scientific word, but basically what cat litter is made out of. So it's like super absorbent. So if something were to leak out into the groundwater or whatever, it would be absorbed. There's very fascinating videos online that explain it in a way that is very easy to understand. But yeah, that was really interesting. And I think that has become a good model. Sweden and Finland kind of fight over who was first. The Swedes were telling us this was our idea. They just executed first. So I think that's interesting. And yeah, definitely a huge success for them.
With kitty litter.
With kitty litter.
Okay, but wait. I think I would have had like a claustrophobic issue going 90 floors down. Were you okay with that?
I was definitely thinking about it in the elevator, but once you were down there, it was actually really cool. Like there was cars down there. So it was like a big tunnel and they put you in like a Jeep and would drive you around.
Okay.
So definitely once we were in there, not scary as long as you weren't thinking about it.
Like how long was the elevator ride?
It moves very fast, like probably the fastest elevator I've ever been in to move that quickly. It couldn't have been more than like a minute or so.
So what do you think other countries can learn from Finland? They're so ahead of the trends.
Like the US, they've been, a leader in operating reactors. They recently brought another reactor online, and despite construction delays, that has been very successful. Now that it's online, they're looking to build more. And I think one thing they can learn about from Finland is just how public acceptance is built over time through consistency and through results. So it's not only their long-term safe operation of the existing fleet that helps strengthen public confidence in nuclear, but it's also maintaining a stable energy policy with broad cross-party support. And so I think that long-term consistency has helped reduce uncertainty and kept nuclear from becoming as polarized as it has in maybe some other countries, especially because, nuclear projects take such a long time from first idea to all of the contracts to construction. And so I think that durable support is really important.
Awesome. Okay. Next country. You ready?
Ready.
Oh, this is cool. This city has a famous mythical mascot that is half lion and half fish. Today, this unique creature is one of the city's most iconic symbols.
It's very interesting, but not ringing any bells.
Oh, wow. This is hard. The Guinness Book record for the longest human domino chain was set here on September 30th, 2000.
Do you have a fact about how long it was? Well, I asked for the next clue.
Actually, yes. It was formed by 9,234 students and measured about 2.6 miles. Let's go to the next one. This country relies on natural gas for 95% of their power generation needs.
I'm going to guess Singapore.
Ding, ding, ding.
Good one. That would not have been the clue that
Yeah.
revealed it to me.
We just hosted them in our office like last week.
Oh, perfect.
And they gave us their presentation on their current energy mix and their energy plans.
Oh, that's impressive. The next clue would have been this place is both a country and a city and is made up of over 64 different islands, which is cool. And the last one was in 2012. This country deemed traditional nuclear not suitable for its dense nuclear population, but new advancements have prompted them to look into using SMRs. So you were just meeting with folks from Singapore. Tell us about their thoughts right now and why the change.
Yeah, I think you had kind of just spoke to it with clues 4 and 5. Historically, Singapore was never considered a likely nuclear country just because they have very limited land area, dense population. It's just a ton of islands. And so a gigawatt scale plant is very hard to imagine. But I think these SMRs, these microreactors, have made that possible, that this actually is something that they could do. And so in response to that, Singapore, while they haven't made an official decision on nuclear, is making tremendous progress. So they're investing a lot in their internal capabilities. They've been studying SMRs. They've been developing their regulatory expertise and partnering with different countries on the international scale in research, workforce development. They're engaging with all of the key players. And so just seeing the progress that they've made from all of the different touch points that we've had with them is very interesting because they're very strategic in their long-term infrastructure planning. And just the fact that they're seriously preparing now, even without committing to deployment, just shows how much attention advanced nuclear is starting to receive globally.
Do you think Singapore is an example of wait and see or prepare now so you can move later?
Absolutely prepare now so you can move later. So while they still have not officially committed, I think it's very clear that they're trying to avoid being unprepared if they determine that the nuclear technologies are mature and do become economically viable. Energy Market Authority, EMA, is kind of the key player there that's helping advance the decisions for a nuclear program. And so they have done a lot, like as I was saying earlier, in terms of building that expertise, evaluating the different safety requirements, and developing these partnerships. And I think this approach reflects kind of a broader trend that we're seeing now among governments, is that they may not be ready to build reactors today, but they don't want to fall behind if they do decide that nuclear is for them, especially as these companies start filling up their order books with all the countries that are ready now. I think people are starting to realize, well, if we wait, then we're going to fall behind. You can kind of do things in parallel. And I think that's what we're seeing in Singapore.
All right. Last country.
One of this country's attractions is an iconic upside-down house where visitors enter through the attic and furniture is hung from the ceiling.
That would make me very dizzy. I'm not sure where that would be.
Okay, wait a second. I have some added context on this, and I was not expecting it to get this serious. This house opened in 2007, and it symbolizes the confusion of life under communist rule. You enter through a window, walk across the ceiling, and explore vintage furniture from the era. I thought it was just like a fun house. I didn't know it was a political statement. Okay, clue 2. This country is working on building its very first nuclear plant, which should start operating in the first half of the 2030s.
Clue 1 also had a second clue in it with the communist rule and the 2030s plant. I'm going to go with Poland.
Ding, ding, ding.
You got them all. I'm so impressed.
I would like to say, since we talked about this earlier with Finland, clue 5 was in Poland. Pierogi are so cherished that October 8th is celebrated as Pierogi Day.
I need to start celebrating October 8th.
I agree. I didn't even know that, and that's shameful because I am mostly Polish.
I'm half, so.
Mary, I'll remind you or you remind me, and we can make sure to celebrate this year. Steph, please join in.
We'd love to.
So does Poland show us something different about the energy transition compared with countries that are already less dependent on fossil fuels?
It is different in the sense of, Poland built much of its economy, its industrial base, and its energy system around coal. And so historically, that has provided most of their electricity, supported mining communities and its economy. And so the transition, in this case, it's not just a clean energy issue, but it's also a jobs issue, an affordability issue. And quite frankly, they're looking at it as a national security issue. So I think countries that rely heavily on coal may view nuclear also as a more realistic transition than trying to move from coal to a wind and solar system. Nuclear still offers that firm, large-scale electricity that can replace coal generation while still supporting industrial demand and grid reliability. And so I think that is something that you're maybe seeing in Poland, which may not be true in other places.
So I know we actually had a delegation from Poland in DC recently, so I know they're interested. We saw several at our conference this week. We had a Polish speaker. How does Poland's nuclear push show that nuclear energy can be both a clean energy solution and a way to build stronger strategic partnerships with countries like the U.S.?
So Poland, of course, selected the U.S.-based Westinghouse-Bechtel consortium to build its first AP1000, and that project has become a major symbol of U.S.-Polish strategic cooperation. At the same time, they're also working closely with Canadian and U.S. partners on the BWRX 300 program. And I think this cooperation really matters because it deepens long-term political and economic ties between our countries. It creates shared supply chains, which is something that we were talking about this week when the reverse trade mission was here, like you mentioned. And I think it was just such a clear sign. We had about 25 executives from Poland come over, and U.S. government showed out in full force. They had meetings at the National Energy Dominance Council at the White House. They had meetings on Capitol Hill. And I think we consistently heard the same message throughout the week, was that this is strategically important to both of us. It's about Poland's clean energy goals. It's about European energy security, but it's also about the broader relationship. It's about building industrial partnership that will last for decades. And those messages were echoed at the highest levels across all of our agencies, across Capitol Hill. And I think that just goes to show you how civil nuclear energy partnership is so much more than just an energy project.
Well, we did it. You're off the hot seat. You got them all right. You did so good. Thank you so much for playing along and helping us set the stage for season 6.
Yeah, that was really fun. If you had to give listeners one sentence on why this season matters now, what would you say?
This season matters because I think it comes at a time and we're just capturing such a major shift that's happening in the global energy conversation.
Awesome. So, Steph, we're asking everyone this season their favorite place they've ever visited. What's yours?
My favorite place that I've ever visited is Portugal, because I loved Lisbon, but I also think it has some of the most beautiful beaches, and I am very much a beach person.
Yes, I love Portugal.
Great answer. Well, Steph, thank you so much for listening and hanging out with Mary and me.
Yes, thank you guys for having me. It was fun, and I'm really looking forward to listening to the season.
A lot of stuff that Steph talked about we'll cover throughout the season, dive in a little bit deeper, show that nuclear is never just one story. It looks different in every part of the world, and that's exactly what makes this next season so exciting.
Season 6 is coming soon, so make sure to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen, and stay updated on all things Fissionary. We'll see you soon.